Hey guys, welcome to Author on Author Interviews. My name is Lachlan Peary, and joining me today are a very talented group of poets from America and Australia. I'd like to welcome Vanessa Romanov. Give us a wave,
Hello.
Vanessa. Robert
Hello.
Ormsby and Veronica Allen. Today we will be talking about the process of writing poetry and how the poetry writing process has changed us as people. Also, if you'd like to find out more about us, you can find our socials below. So guys, just starting off with a very simple question, and we might go Vanessa, Robert, then Veronica. What's your greatest source of inspiration as poets?
I was okay.
Yeah.
Everything and everything with me, really. It all depends on situations, moods, people. It just depends. But for me, it's everything and anything.
Awesome. Robert?
I would say anything emotion, anything that emotes, anything that can inspire emotion, whether that is something light and kind of breezy or something a little bit darker and, the opposite of light, but anything emotional.
Awesome. Veronica?
Oh gosh. For me, I think it's more so I'm into description. So like colors, nature, stuff like that. I feel like you can pull anything from colors or nature, which is so weird, but like that's just kind of like how my brain processes things.
Awesome. So how do you guys want to stand out as poets? And what do you hope people take away from your poems?
Well, I hope people take away, well, from my poems at least, a sense of reality that not many get to see. So if I'm writing on let's say a case, I want people to be able to understand either the perpetrators or the victim's perspective, like what goes through their heads. And I guess it really depends on, it also depends on what I'm writing about as well. If it's like a mental illness, like please seek help. If it's something, death related within the family or friends, then, it's just a way of expressing myself, I guess.
Very good, Vanessa. Robert?
I think I would like the takeaway to be ideally relatability, where even if you haven't necessarily experienced this, if we're writing about love, you haven't experienced that kind of love, or death, or whatever the experience may be, as personal as it is to the writer, I would hope that the reader would find that relatability. Maybe you haven't experienced this per se, but I feel like if we're doing our job well as poets, you'll be able to recognize that feeling. You feel that somewhere else in life. So the relatability is ideally the takeaway.
Yeah.
That's so funny because like I'm like the complete opposite. I feel like poetry or any art form, I feel like it's selfish of me to want me to make my consumer feel like anything that like I want them to feel. Like when you look at art, right? Like it's not like some artists paint things for you like I feel like it's like their own interpretation, and it's kind of like bad for me to say like, oh, I wrote this, so this is what you should feel. I want them to grab at whatever they can grab, because like that's what art is, right? It's like that, it's an open flow of emotions and feelings, persons, places, things. Like I think that it's not for me to tell my consumer what to have. It's for them to grab whatever they grab out of it, and for me to keep inside what I was creating in the first place. So, but that could be like my lack of like where you guys come from. Like Miss Vanessa, you wrote so much, and you and Rob, like I'm just new to this, so that could just be like ignorance or just like the way I.
No, that's a very good point, Veronica. I totally understand where you're going with that. So what do you guys, when you look at poetry, what do you think good written poems have in common?
Well, for me, because I tend to read a lot of classics, the Divine Comedy, Ovid, Metamorphosis, Virgil. I guess like some form of storyline that you can see from beginning, middle, and end, which is what I try to do in my um, poetry, at least. And I, yeah, that's just me, I guess.
Awesome. Rob?
Which is funny, Vanessa, the Metamorphosis, Kafka, huge inspiration when I was doing my first book.
Mhm.
So it's probably going to be my answer for a lot of these questions is the emotion. Reading the Metamorphosis, that feeling of alienation, that feeling of not belonging, that kind of, there's a darkness to that entire story. That's what I look for in a poem. I want that emotional resonance. I want to feel something, whether that's love, whether that's misery, whatever it is. I need to, it needs to speak to me. I need to feel it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm always looking for.
Very good.
When I look for like good poetry, what they all have in common for me is like making me question. Like I like to think. So like I feel like all the poems or the things that I kind of gravitate towards always leave that open end of question. Like, does it mean this or this? And that's I think what makes like really good like poetry.
Awesome. So do you guys believe it should be difficult to understand a poem, or do you think poems should be easily read?
For me, it's a bit of both. You
Yeah.
want that kind of mystery, but then you can, but then you also want something that you can understand. And with what Rob said, emotion, like you might want something to, you might want to be able to pick up on the emotions that a poem might have.
Very good, Vanessa. Rob?
Yeah. Ideally, there'd be room for both.
Yeah.
I understand, some of the classics, or we're talking, Shakespeare or Frost. Some of these, that kind of language, that kind of verbiage, can be a little bit difficult to understand. I love Silverstein as much as, somebody might like Shakespeare. I think there's room for both. You should at least have the option, whatever you're looking for.
Yeah.
If you want to do the work and have to think it through, cool.
Yeah.
If you just kind of like it spoon fed to you, for lack of a better term, there's room for that as well.
Yeah.
And really it just depends on, who's reading it. Like there's the story Precious by Sapphire. Like they adapted it into a film, but before that it was just a short story, or I guess poem. If you were to open that book and to look at literally like the first couple of lines, the character, like they stayed true to the setting and who she was. So like it was broken English. It was just like all over the place because it came from a uneducated woman telling her story. I think that poetry, it doesn't matter whether it's spoon-fed or if it's as heavy or hard as like some of the classics. It really just depends on who's reading it and how they connect to it. So I think
that's very good, Veronica. That's exactly the point I want to hear. So some poets argue that a poem is like a living creature. Once it's out there, there's not much you can do to improve or fix it. While other poems are edited meticulously, broken down, not leaving much from the original draft. What are your thoughts on doing this?
Get back to me on this one. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, true. Robert?
Way to put the pressure on me, Vanessa. I think as long as you can keep the heart of what you're trying to go for,
Yeah.
there is room for editing. Very much in my first book, rough time in my life. A lot of nightmares, sleep paralysis. So I would wake up from these very vivid nightmares and I would start to write. And I'm trying to get you to feel what I was feeling in that moment. that desperation, that fear, whatever it might be.
Mm.
I think you get out that kind of rough draft, you get out that emotion.
Mm.
And I do think there is room for editing. You can kind of start to think, hey, there may be a better way to communicate this. There may be a better way to say this to get you to relate to it. So I think as long as you can keep, you don't want to over edit or overthink it, because then you're replacing that emotion with logic. And I'm not trying to go with logic. I'm trying to go with some sort of emotion.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think there's room for editing. Just don't overdo it. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like editing is a filter. And what do
Yeah.
people think about filters? I don't see
Mm.
the real you. Like I feel like I
Yeah.
feel like I mean like you say you woke up from like nightmares, right? So in that moment, like you're half asleep, you're exhausted, but right now I have to put this point on paper. You know, how dare you, editor, tell me that I misspelled a word?
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
like I can translate to someone like, oh, like I meant this. Like you can have that word and then, but this is what I meant, and like put it all together in a story, like a stream of conscience, like consciousness. So I feel like, I mean, I'm sure like I guess for you know, to sell it or put it on shelves, like you have to have periods and commas and all those social things. But I mean, but what if you didn't? And like the reader just
Yeah.
got it in what it was. I feel like
Raw.
that would be more impactfully raw. Yeah.
Very good,
Yeah.
Veronica. Vanessa, what are your thoughts?
So when I was writing Lockdown Madness, which basically tells my thoughts, my observations about the Australian, particularly the Victorian lockdowns.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Just writing about it just kind of pisses me off. Just thinking
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
You know, you get to see the frustration, the desperation as well with what I've written in it, and I actually had to edit it about 5 or 6 times before like I was like, yep, it's fine. I don't know. I guess it's because I don't come from a English speaking background, so
Yeah.
I might need that extra push to edit.
Yeah.
So.
Very good point. So, has a poem ever humbled or frightened you? And if so, what caused it? And what did you do afterwards?
Yeah. One of my own poems actually that I've written in the first book where a child dies in a car accident, and because I wrote it when I was 15. It was in regards to the Katie Flynn case in Washington, DC, I believe. And yeah, it was kind of traumatizing to say. I'm like, I wrote about this. What do I do with it? And then I just hold on to it for the next 8 years or so.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great, Vanessa. Robert?
So I'll take it back a little bit. It is a poet I read in our childhood, but Michelle Silverstein. It's where I first kind of discovered poetry and
Yep.
saw what somebody could do. And though it's not a poem per se, I remember reading The Giving Tree. I read it for the first time recently. Somehow I missed it as a kid. I had all the Michelle Silverstein books, but I didn't have that one. Took my kids in the bookstore. We're all picking out some books. And I'm trying to open The Giving Tree. I said, oh, you guys will like this. And man, I started bawling by the end. I had no idea. You read these things as a child and it translates one way. You read it as an adult. Now with kids, now with, kind of closer to looking at your own mortality. The perception changes, the meaning changes.
Yeah, definitely.
That was one from a very childhood poem, childlike poem. To be that emotionally stirred, I didn't see it coming. And it definitely affected me.
Yeah.
That's great, Robert.
Yeah, that's awful. That's made me cry now. The Give It Tree is awful. I guess gosh, something that like so there's this there's this book of poems. I'm probably gonna butcher the title. It's like poems to read alone in the dark or alone in the dark. I don't know, but it is also depicted as a kid's poetry book.
Mm.
But it is not. So like if you look at the covers, like this black cover, there's this little cute little bear with like a yellow light, and he has like this book. You're like, oh, yeah, like the first poem is just like it like literally tore me apart. And you're like, why? And I think it's because like the poems are written from like children's point of view, like of things that they're upset about. And I think it was just really hard to like imagine children
Aw.
feeling like, I know, like these sad feelings or this feeling of depression and loneliness. Like you want to kind of like skip over that. Like kids are supposed to be excited and jump for joy. And then like you open this book, you're like, oh my dear God, like there's so much despair. And like
Yeah.
even one of yours, suicide seduction was like one
Yeah.
of those. Oh my God. Oh, have you read it? It's like
Yes.
it is too
Oh, I
much.
got
Like
Yeah.
no, don't like the first time I read that, I was just like to hear someone's, first of all, to make suicide sensual, but then also like really gut wrenching. Like at the same time, it was too much to like for someone who's been there, like mentally,
Yeah.
and then see it on paper. It was way too much. Like,
Mhm.
oh, really? Could you like
Oh.
the truth.
So poets are generally portrayed as being overcome with inspiration, having to write everything down out of nowhere and at once. Does this ever happen to you guys?
Yes, many times. Particularly when I'm with my partner.
Mm.
And but it also could be, I I guess with anyone really. Any friend, any family. Yeah. There've been moments where I kind of had to be like, oh, I'm hearing about something, I'm seeing something, I need to write it down quick. So I would pull out my phone, iPad, laptop, whatever, and I just write. So
Mm.
it's a heat of the moment kind of thing for me.
Yeah, very good. Robert?
On a good day,
Yeah.
you'll find
Yeah.
that inspiration, and it's the words just come.
Mm.
Hmm.
It's a really good day. You're gonna stop.
Yeah.
Some days not so much. Some days you gotta dig a little deeper. You kind of gotta explore. You try to put yourself in a certain headspace.
Mm.
Music is a big catalyst for my writing.
Yeah.
I may purposely try to seek out something a little bit sadder. Purposely try to seek out something happier. Listen to love songs. I may listen to, sometimes you got to work for it.
Yeah.
I have had those periods where you're just writing. You get on a rip, and before you know it, you've got 20, 30 pages. You forgot to eat. Your stomach's ground. You're just kind of in the zone.
Yeah.
Those are the best days.
Yeah, I think it's more, it's like a possession, like Miss Vanessa was saying. It's kind of like in that moment, like you're just sitting there and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I don't have paper. I'm just gonna use like my skin. I'm gonna write it down because like it's like sometimes it just like engulfs you like mind, body, and spirit, and you're like in
Mm.
that moment. It's kind of like brain vomit. I don't know if that's kind of gross to say, but yeah, like
Yeah.
I have those moments, and then like
Yeah.
sometimes it'll like just be a word, and I'm like, okay, so what's that? And then like couple of days later, there's like the first couple of lines. I'm like, oh, okay, so slowly piecing together like a
Mm.
puzzle. I like either way.
I think creators have to create.
Yeah.
You can go for so long, maybe go through a dry spell, or
Yeah.
but at some point, creators have to create. It's
Yeah.
a physical, I don't know if you guys can relate, but it's just that feeling of I have to get this out, whether it's through writing, or drawing, or shooting a video.
Mm.
I gotta create.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. So, how has the internet and social media contributed to the distribution of your poetry?
I guess because I'm on all platforms now, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I guess like it's so because you get the word of mouth, which is like a friend of a friend of a friend. And I think that helps, and then that tends to spread out to a whole bunch of people, and then next thing you know, you have a bunch of new followers, and you're just like, oh, hi, where did you come from?
Yeah, true. Rob?
So with all these different platforms, like Vanessa was saying, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, there's probably a bunch I don't even know.
Yeah.
I find that gives me an opportunity to be ignored by more people.
Yeah, that's right.
It feels really good. If I've not done distributing my work hasn't really,
Get your volume, Rob. Shake
Oh,
it a little bit.
there we go.
Awesome.
Better?
Yeah, that's it. That's good.
If it doesn't help me as far as distribution of my work, social media has gone a long way. The fact that I'm here in this interview with 2 people from Australia, 2 from America, certainly inspiration. I've met a lot of illustrators that I've used in projects of mine. Collaborations I've done. Social media does a good job of kind of allowing us to connect with like-minded people.
Yeah, very true.
It's linking creators with creators, and I do think that's important. And years ago, I don't think you had that as much.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, like I'm not as cool as you guys. Like I don't have anything out like right now. But like because like Rob has put me under the umbrella of distraction action, right now it's all about branding, because I think for the books that you do have, with all of those different types of platforms, I think you have to kind of be very consistent. So like, of course, you're not going to see like that turnaround immediately, but I think that it's really important to constantly push out content, even if you have like one person like it, or if they just like TikTok, like it kills me. You have like 500 views and one person may have liked what you did. I think that like the more that you push it and push it, like is going to catch fire. I think that all artists can agree, like finding your right audience is like a matchbox, and like you just keep hitting it and hitting it, and one day it's gonna hit that flame and it's gonna go. So like that's why I keep telling Rob, but hopefully after we build up distraction action, then I'll start like kind of pushing my stuff out, because like I don't only want to do like my usual dark, depressing, and overtly erotic stuff at all times. I do want to like write children's books too, because like my daughter's autistic, and I feel like a lot of people, there's so many different views and thoughts about children with autism or people on the spectrum, especially here in the States. Like they don't get as much funding as they should. Schools aren't as helpful for parents or the children themselves. So like she's a creative person in herself. So I want to kind of like put her everyday life into stories, so like that other kid can like pick it up and read it and feel like, oh wow, she's just like me. So I'm kind of like, I'm on both spectrums. Like I'm like, oh, I love kids, and ooh, let's kill things. So
True. True.
Which do you guys we're talking about social media? You made me think when you said branding. I feel like that's a double-edged sword. Nowadays it is about your brand. It is about your image, it is about your brand. And I find sometimes that works to your advantage, and other times more about your brand than the work. Hey, I haven't read any of your stuff, but I like your image, or I that may not always translate to them checking out your work. They love you or who you appear to be on social media. But they're not looking at your work. You know, it's hit or miss, I think.
Definitely. I've had a conversation with an author recently, and she's built up a profile on Instagram, and people sort of are looking at her rather than what she's writing, and she's getting annoyed that they're not focusing on her writing. But I think it depends upon the platform. Instagram is sort of very attached to a person's image. Both Facebook and Twitter, they're more the people on it are more interested in what you're writing, and that's sort of where I'm pushing her now. So I think definitely it depends upon the platform and yeah, and what you're trying to get from people.
That's a good point.
Mhm. So I'll get back to you guys. So how do you guys want to stand out as poets? And what do you hope people take away from your poems, especially being in the current environment that we are in?
You mean with COVID?
Yeah, and like, you know,
Yep.
lockdowns and also, you know, not being able to travel anywhere and stuff like that.
So because a lot of my stuff is recent, I've written about lockdowns, COVID, you name it.
Yeah.
I guess people can relate to it as well as other things. Yeah, you know, get back to me on this one because
Yeah,
I kind of
definitely.
forgot the question.
Do you want me to say the question again for you guys, or you got what
Yes,
I said?
please. Yes, please.
So it's mainly about standing out as poet, as an
Okay,
author
yeah.
and poet. So how do you want to be perceived as a poet, especially in the environment that we're in? What do you want people to take away from what you've produced?
Do I answer or does Rob answer first?
We'll go with Rob.
Okay. I think the takeaway that I would hope for, again, that relatability.
Yeah.
For somebody to be able to take whatever it is that they may need in that moment.
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff is sort of confessional.
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff is dark. Understatement of the year. But I do want to normalize. I would like that to be the takeaway. I want to normalize being able to talk about those things.
Yeah, definitely.
Just holding that in. A lot of tragedies end or arguably begin with, "Oh, I didn't feel like I could tell anybody. I didn't feel like I could talk about it." I feel like for myself, in talking about all of my issues or all the things that I've experienced, ideally the reader would look and say, if he can share all that,
yeah,
I can share off my chest and hopefully feel better.
yeah, that's very good, Rob.
I guess for me, I don't know, maybe because but I like, you know, we've taken all kind of personality quizzes like growing up. Everybody wanted to know like what you're gonna be like, or you know, your occupation and what's your star sign and your sun moon.
Yep.
Yeah.
In a world where they keep screaming be an individual, yet individuality is the same. I want people to read my work, to look at me and literally not know what they're focusing on. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
have like a particular, this is who I am. I want people to, yeah, like I feel like there's like this song by Ava Max. So like I'm a heavy like music person, and like it's called So Am I. And she literally like she's singing about like apparently it's like geared towards like, you know, a younger group. And she's just like, don't feel bad if you're a misfit, because she is too. And I feel like that was such a big message. Like I want people to feel like we are not a puzzle. Like the world is not this big jigsaw puzzle of like a million pieces and you have to fit somewhere. I want people to take the puzzle and like throw it at people. Like I want you to be whatever you want to be, when you want to be. When you read my stuff, like, and if my poem is about like making love in your lover's blood, you can literally say, wow, like she's talking about spaghetti, like let's go. Like I don't want anyone to look at one thing and go, okay, so this is what she said and this is what she meant. If any takeaway, I want them to pick and pull at what they need and then throw away the rest. That's literally how I live my life. So whether or not that's been working, I'm not sure, but like that's who I am. Like I don't want to just be cookie cutter, and I don't want people to feel like they should be either.
Yeah, that's great, Veronica. Vanessa, have you got any
Um,
thoughts?
yes. Well, I'm very unpredictable when I write. Like one day, one piece I might be talking about some sort of crime that's had happened, and the next I could be writing something about spring or September or
Mm,
something from the Balkans. I don't know. Like I'm very unpredictable when I'm writing,
mm,
and I want readers to think, oh, what am I going to get next from her? You know,
yeah, yeah.
what's the next thing she's going to do? I
Definitely.
like that unpredictability.
Mm. So, what are your thoughts on breaking into the writing industry nowadays? And what are the difficulties you've encountered in trying to get your work out there?
Me or Rob?
Rob looks
Can
like he
I go
wants to say something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
Veronica?
I actually don't know. Like I don't have anything out there. I'm literally just like, hi.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
he found me. Like I
yeah.
stopped writing like in high school because like everyone, I mean, first of all, again, like if you see my content, I'm pretty sure like it's kind of weird for a high school kid to write about, but I just kind of stopped because there was all this negative like words around it. And then here he goes and he's just like, oh, bring me your sorrow, and I'm like, oh, okay, here's all my sadness. So I literally have like, I don't know how hard it will be or is. I'm literally just kind of watching his example through
Mm.
the ups and the downs and the throwing of books across the room.
Don't break your heart.
So I think it's more of like a you and Miss Vanessa question. I'm literally like in awe of just being here, listening to what you guys are going through, kind of helping me in return.
Thank
So
you.
tell them.
As far as breaking into the business or trying to
We got to do the volume thing again, Rob. Yeah, we've done it.
Oh,
There you go.
That's it, testing.
That's it.
It's difficult. It's difficult to be a writer, right?
Yep.
Any other artistic expression. If I say, hey, there's a band I want you guys to check out, right? I can play you 20-second clip of a song. I'll find the best part of the song, usually the chorus or the hook, and right
Yep.
away you'll know if you like that song.
Mm,
If I show you a movie or a TV show, I'll show you a trailer, 90 seconds designed to pique your interest, right? All of these things I think are instant gratification. Writing, I'm putting a lot of work, me as the creator, I'm putting a lot of the heavy lifting on the consumer, right? I want you to use your imagination.
Yeah.
I want you to visualize. I want you to, you're going to have to work for it.
Yeah.
And in an age of instant gratification, that's a lot to ask.
Yeah. Definitely.
I feel like that is solely a writer's plight.
Mm,
That is something that we as writers have to contend with.
yeah. Definitely.
That can be difficult, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Vanessa?
I guess it all depends really, because I've had a lot of scam. So like I've had a lot of scammers approach me and be like, oh, you know, we love the cover of your book, you know,
Yeah.
can we get a free copy, you know, but
Yeah.
you have to pay us for reviews. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, nah, not happening. I don't know. It depends, because you don't know what's real or you don't know what's fake out there in terms of advertising.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a strange world on social media.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's all we
Very.
can say.
Share one
Yeah.
piece of work just to give it away. I'll give away stories if I feel like somebody might benefit from
Yeah.
reading it. And as soon as you post anything, it's 20 things. Hey, promote here for, you know,
Yep.
pay you to promote. You promote if you read the work and if you believe in it, then you promote it.
Yes.
I've read Vanessa's books. Our friend Leishan, who's supposed to do this interview, and he flaked.
Yeah.
Lucian,
Yeah.
you didn't think you were going to get off, did you? Um,
Listen, you're in trouble by us, buddy.
yeah. But you support because you want to support.
Yeah.
You don't support to make money. Like, I'm not going to charge Vanessa to read her books. It should be the other way. I'm paying her to get the book. That's one part of social media that I do detest is that, hey, well, $50 and I'll promote you. Now you promote me because you believe in me, or you promote me. I'm fine with it.
I guess I could only say that coming from the consumer side, I do feel like there has to be a level of, monetary gain. Like, I mean, okay,
Now,
so you have to, well, you have to think about it. So like I do like so I'm a girly girl sometimes. And so like I like makeup. And so like I'll like get on Ipsy and I'll grab like their box and I'm like, "Oh, this is so great." And I could show people who I follow or who follow me like, "Oh, look how awesome this eyeshadow is, blah blah blah." But they're only seeing like the free version. But the fact that I just literally paid like $70 to get this box so I can show it to you, like you have to like I think a lot of it, and again, when I get into it, I feel like a lot of it is going to be like give until that one hit, and then somebody's like, "Oh my God, I love your stuff." And I'm not saying like give your books away for free, but there has to be some sort of, and hey, like I see you have X amount of people. I will pay you to read my book and tell people about it. Any review is a good review. I feel like you do have to pay just a little bit to get it out there. So that's
And
You can
again,
tell
with
old and stubborn, right?
I told you.
I'll do it my way.
and it also helps if other writers and other friends have like promoted your work as well. I know I've promoted Rob's and Leishan's as well. Yes, many times. That being said, yes, and Veronica is right. You do need that some sort of compromise to be able to reach a high audience.
Where art meets commerce.
Yeah. So, are you guys ever dissatisfied with your final product? Is there still something you can't get across in your final works?
Can I take this one?
Yep. Go ahead, Rob.
I'll speak for the whole table. Is anybody not?
Yeah, that's right.
Always constantly dissatisfied.
Yeah.
I literally, okay, so like I said, I just started writing, like, so I've been sending, like, Rob stuff, and I will, like, toil over it, and I've written it, I'm so excited, I'll send it to him, and he'll read it, and he'll go, "God, I can't wait for the end." But that was the end. I am satisfied, and he's always like, "Yeah, no." So my dissatisfaction comes from Mr. It has to be more than just what I give you. Like I would be perfectly fine with just a few like I said, I write like streams of consciousness. So like it would be like this big thought process and I'm like and I'll send it. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was good." Yeah, so where's the rest of it? It's there. You finish it. I'm done with it. So that's my dissatisfaction.
I'm temporarily satisfied at best. And I'm guessing you guys can relate. I'm guessing a lot of authors that you'll interview can relate. We'll create something, you toil away, you edit it to where it's the best it can be. Typically I'll let it breathe for a week or two, come back to it with fresh eyes. And I walk away from it thinking like, wow, this is great. This is the one. And then I'll come back 2 weeks later and be like, "What? Who was I sober? Like, what is this?"
Yeah.
Paper and pencil, he would have like paper all over the floor.
Yeah.
Like, this is like anything.
I'm never satisfied till it's published, and then it's kind of a weird switch in my brain. Once it's published, it's not mine anymore.
Yeah.
I obsess over it and I nitpick it to death and I love it and I hate it up until the point I publish, and then it's out there. It's not mine anymore. It's theirs, and I have to stand by it. What love it or hate it or I'm sure we all kind of often come
Yep.
back and say, oh, if I could do it again, I'd change it. Um, yeah, the work is out there for better or worse, and I have to stand by it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
And as for me, God, I hated my fourth book because of, I don't know, what I've written in it, what I've I don't know, there was just something I didn't like about it until I passed it over to my boyfriend's mother and a few of his side of the family, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, you wrote this, we love it. And so I was kind of pressured into, not pressured, but like I kind of had to publish it because other people seemed to love it, but I wasn't happy with it at all. So
I think sometimes we're so attached to it
yep.
that you can't see I can't call it sometimes. I've written things that I really wasn't comfortable in sharing. I didn't think it was any good. I didn't think it was up to that level that I
Yep.
strive for. And those are the ones that people seem to love. And then other times you write this thing and you're super proud and like, this is it. This is the one.
Yep.
And it's crickets.
Yep.
So you never know. I think there's something for everyone. Somebody's going to take it in,
Yeah, that's very good. So being authors entering the literary landscape, what are your thoughts on where poetry is going? Do you think poems can be improved in general? And what are your thoughts on audiences nowadays?
I can see both. Like some poems do need to be improved, but but sometimes you just need to leave it alone.
Yeah.
But I know that's just coming from me.
I think poetry itself has remained unchanged. This is my hot take. I don't think it's changed. I don't think it's ever changed. I'll say even in writing like stories, like new genres kind of emerge. A few years back was like the dawn of the werewolf zombie hunting that whole thing.
It was never a dawn. It has always been here. Rob. Come on, and Rice. There's nothing wrong with Twilight. We're not doing that tonight.
But those things, I became first aware of them. Yeah. But poetry, I don't think poetry's changed. I don't think it's been improved upon, but I don't think it needed it. There's that well that I think all poets come back to. Yeah. It's going to be love. It's going to be loss. It's going to be desperation. It's going to be a lot of stuff for nature. I think that's always been, and I think that always will be, because there's so many different interpretations. Yeah. We could all write a love poem or a poem based on love. They'll all be vastly different. One may be more the lustful side of love. One may be the more lovey-dovey side of love. Yes, that well is there for a reason. I think we all keep coming back to it for a reason.
I so disagree with you heavy. I feel like poetry is changing. If it wasn't changing, there wouldn't be so many different types of poetry, right? So you have sonnets, you have haikus and all that stuff. I feel like, but poetry is changing. What is the anthology of short stories but poetry stretched out? You know what I mean? Like I feel like the direction of poetry is that more people are now using it and have no idea they're doing it. Like my favorite author is Joyce Carol Oates, and people will argue up and down that she's just author. She does literary work. She does essays. No, I feel like she just does poetry. And it's so well written, and like the way she orchestrates and sets up her books, it doesn't feel that way. But literally, I feel like all of her work is really just a long, stretched out poem. One of her best short stories is called Beast, and it's literally like this story of a college student who falls in love with a professor and his wife. And like this is probably a couple of pages, but it reads like a big poem. What is rap other than poems set to music, like techno and EDM? Like people don't understand that poetry is really just a repetition of thought, no matter, really it is like a repetition of thought. So what is a techno song but like 3 or 4 lines set to like a really amazing beat, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like poetry is just evolving, but people don't know what to call it anymore.
That's possible. It's a good counter argument. I will say this, now that I've had a second to think about it. If I stand firm, I don't think poetry is changing, but I do think the poets are. I think you've got more now, arguably, than ever, to bring it back to your question about social media, that the visibility, I think more people, the potential poet that was just writing in a notebook in their bedroom years ago, and they kept it to themselves and nobody ever saw it. And it might be the greatest work you've ever seen. Now I'm just an Instagram post away from being able to share that.
Might I disagree?
Yeah.
Might I disagree? Because there's always been a whole bunch of different people who wrote poetry. I mean,
But you wouldn't see that
but
visibility.
did you not see it? Or did you not notice it? Or did you not notice it? I feel like I think poetry is a state of being, and it just literally changes like a butterfly.
Or ladybug.
Not like
This has been great, guys. I have to ask you to wind it up so we don't go too long. I've got 2 final questions for you. What's the last great poem that you've read? And what poem or poems have shaped you as a writer?
That's a good one, the shape one. Well, that's all you, Vanessa.
Mine is The Divine Comedy. Mine is The Divine Comedy by and The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
Somehow I'm a combination of both, so.
Awesome. Rob?
I think for shaping, I hate to sound like a broken record, but that Shel Silverstein, I can't understate the effect. It was the first time as a kid I saw poetry, and it's the first time it was deceptively simple. It was something I could read and say, well, I could do that, or I could try my hand at that. As far as the last great one that I've read, I hate to put you on the spot, but it's a poem that Veronica had shared with me called Sky Full of Stars. Veronica, a lot of her work is very dark, which is probably why I'm drawn to it. That Sky Full of Stars was the most tenderest. It's a beautiful expression of love. And I would say that whether she was sitting here or not, it's beautiful. And that really, I'm a little bit older, I'm jaded, so to speak. Reading that poem, it really, that's what love can feel like. Like we take that for granted, but it was beautiful. That one shook me.
Thank you. I guess I can answer like both questions at the same time. So the poem that the poems that shaped me and also kind of defined me, oddly come from the Bible. So when we were little, like I said, my grandma, she was very religious. And so she would sit in the middle of the hall with me and my brother, and she would read Bible stories to us till we went to sleep because there was no TV.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite books was honestly like the Song of Solomon. And like that's kind of like hush hush, like, oh, don't you read that in church? Like, I mean, he's literally talking about like the woman's boobs as like, oranges and stuff, like how succulent. What a word for kids to read, right? But I think it's in the Bible, right? But I think that like just hearing my my grandma read that to me, listening to the descriptions, comparing the woman's body to fruit, and also at the same time comparing like God's love to the church, like just to have all those meanings in like this one short book of like the Bible. It was just like so much for me, and I probably should have took it more of like the Christian way, but it did not resonate that way, and it kind of shaped into like wanting to write and compare like nature and colors to love, whether it's like the more beautiful like relationship side of love, that first initial point of contact, or to like the end of it, like, you know, well, for some people like the hatred, the breaking apart of it. And so that's kind of where that came from. So thank you, Jesus.
Very good, Veronica.
That's so cute.
All right, guys, this is all the time we have, but thanks so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you all. For everyone watching this video, if you haven't already, remember to check out the social media links below. Also remember to attach that poem that you mentioned by Veronica. Rob, I'll attach a link of that below. We'll do it. We have to do it. Now that you mentioned it, we have to do it.
Yes,
We have to do it. People who
No,
need to see it.
she needs to get out there. Come on.
Yeah, and this is that's what it's about, guys. You gotta get out there and see your face. Also, guys who are watching this video, if you would like to meet other awesome writers like us and learn more about our journeys as people and authors, don't forget to subscribe. But thanks heaps, guys. I'll catch up again with you soon. And adios, everyone. We'll catch up soon.
All
Thank you
right.
for having us.
Ciao, guys.